In 2022, I was working towards my master's degree, and I remember I had an exam coming up in 5 days. Day 1 goes by, I study nothing. Day 2 goes by, I do nothing. Day 3 goes by, and I do not even pick up my books. But when day 4 hit, it's like alarm bells go off in my head and I really panic and start studying. And guess what? I actually bombed that exam because when you're this close to a deadline, you pretty much stop absorbing things. And looking back at this event, it's not that I was having a fun time by procrastinating. I actually wanted to study, but it's like my mind and my body just refused. And I would actually feel guilty about not studying and just wasting my time. But that isn't who I am anymore. I am now someone who's highly productive, highly disciplined, and have completely eliminated all form of procrastination from my life. And in this video, I'm going to share with you 3 tools that led to this transformation happening. So let's get right into it. Looking back at my life, I realized that one of the reasons why I wouldn't study for exams is because I used to view studying as this gigantic task that is going to require earth-shattering effort from me, because exams typically have like 6+ chapters, and just thinking about the pile of notes that I had to go through had a very defeating effect on me. Now when I feel like I'm procrastinating a task because it feels too difficult or too time consuming, I use something called the 30% rule. The main idea of this rule is that you lower the intensity of that task to just about 30%. Like if I found myself procrastinating a 1 hour long study session, I would just do a 20-minute study session instead. So this 30% rule had 2 important benefits. The first one was that I was naturally much more likely to do that task because doing 30% of intensity is way easier than doing 100% of intensity. Secondly, I found that once I had started the task, I would actually go on for longer than I had planned. I would genuinely sit down thinking that I'm just going to study for 20 minutes, but I ended up studying for 25, 30, 35 minutes. Another version of this 30% rule is basically breaking down tasks into subtasks. The 30% rule works great when you have like some form of a metric in mind. Like you can reduce a 1 hour study session to 20 minutes or reading 10 pages of a book to reading 3 pages. But there are activities where there is no specific metric. Like one perfect example for this is like creating a YouTube video. Like I do not know how long it is going to take me to create a video, so this 30% rule becomes sort of inapplicable. The best way to think about such tasks is as a collection of tiny subtasks. So now this giant task of creating a YouTube video can be broken down into tiny subtasks like scripting, designing the thumbnail, recording, editing the video. Now when you actually feel like procrastinating this task, you can just pick a tiny subtask that you have the mental and the physical energy to do at the moment. And to be honest, there are going to be moments where even these subtasks are going to seem like too difficult to perform. But the good news is you can break these subtasks down into even smaller subtasks. Like for example, a huge report can be broken down into chapters. A chapter can be broken down into pages. A page can be broken down into paragraphs. A paragraph can be broken down into a line. Whatever tiny piece of subtask you're willing to do right now, you can start by doing that. If you can get over that initial bump of effort that is required to start an activity, then it's much more easier to perform that activity. And the best way to get over this initial bump of effort is to perceive that activity as somewhat easy to perform. And the best way to have this perception is using the 30% rule and the task breakdown rule. In the past, I used to view tasks as obstacles or chores that I just needed to be done with at the end of the day. These were things that would just suck away energy from me, and that is it, nothing more to them. But when you think about tasks this way, then you naturally begin to avoid them. The way that I view tasks now is entirely different. Every single task that I do now has something to offer me in return. For example, just the task of reading a book. One way to look at it is that, oh, I have to read 10 pages a day, I'm chained to this task. But another way to look at the same task is that, oh, I'm reading a book, I'm learning new things, I'm gaining wisdom, I'm improving my vocabulary, I'm improving my sentence structure. I now have more knowledge to help those around me. You see, now the same task of reading a book now seems to offer a lot more in return and seems like a good deal. When you start looking at tasks from this lens, as in what can they do for you, and trust me, every single task that you perform can be looked at through this lens. Now there seems to be this added incentive for you to perform that task. You know, as a kid, I used to be like really fascinated with this cartoon called Pokemon, where the main character would just go around and catch these unique creatures with all these unique skills and abilities. This is kind of the way that I now think of tasks. Like each task has some unique skills that it offers me. And when I perform a task, I am basically adding more skills to my arsenal of skills. But one requirement to actually think this way is to have a growth mindset. You actually need to believe that the skills and abilities you have, they are not fixed. They are not just innately there in you, but these are rather things that can be improved or attained. Once you truly have this mindset, each task now becomes an opportunity to grow your skills. So the next time you find yourself procrastinating a task, reframe the question from what is this task going to require of me to what can this task do for me. The truth is that nothing that I've said so far will work if your sleep is messed up, your diet is messed up, and you're not getting enough amount of exercise. Let me just call this the Anti-Procrastination Trinity. What I've realized is that when one of these areas of your life is broken, then your body and mind just stop listening to you. You could want to do something really bad and have a bunch of deadlines coming up, but your body and your mind will still reject that. It's because you've been a naughty boy. You have not treated your body with respect. Let's go over each of these foundational principles one by one. So I realize that whenever I have fast food or basically anything that comes in a packet with a bunch of ingredients, as soon as I consume that, I am like mentally knocked out. I get brain fog and I'm unable to focus. I don't know what is to be done next. And your overall motivation levels just drop. When people usually talk about fast food, they basically talk about all the aesthetic changes that it's going to make. Like you're going to develop a belly, you're not going to look as pleasing, you're going to have like puffy cheeks. But what no one talks about is how damaging fast food is to your mental health. One of the best tests to figure out if your procrastination is due to your diet or not is that if you go on something called 1 meal a day, like for the next 4 or 5 days, just have 1 meal a day and preferably make it the last meal of the day. Make it your dinner. What you are going to realize is that throughout the day, you are going to feel a lot more productive and energetic because now your body does not have to spend all this energy digesting this shitty food that you have been putting in. When it comes to sleep, for a long time, I did not take my sleep seriously. And to be honest, I must have been sleep deprived for most of my life. And that was half the reason why I would procrastinate things. When you're sleep deprived, you actually lose your ability to do hard things. You begin to act like someone who just wants instant pleasure. Also, one of the biggest misconceptions that I had was that all you need is 8 hours of sleep and then you're good to go. But the truth is that you need to sleep at the same time every single day and get up at the same time every single day, including weekends. If you are waking up at different times, sleeping at different times, even if you get like those 8 hours of sleep, you are still going to feel jet lag. You're still going to feel kind of that brain fog. So these days, one of the most important tasks that I do is go to bed at a specific time. By 9 p.m., I turn off all my devices and I'm in bed, lying down. Growing up, I used to think that the best benefit of exercise is packing on muscle, being strong, being fast. And don't get me wrong, all these reasons are great reasons to want to work out. But the best benefit of working out, in my opinion, is what it does to your mental health. Like there was a period in my life where I had not worked out for 3 weeks in a row. I was probably occupied with work, business, whatever. And it is during that period when I had poor mental health, lack of motivation, emotional volatility, lowered attention span. And this is when I realized how truly beneficial was working out. If you really start respecting your body, getting in enough sleep, getting good diet and working out, then your body is eventually going to start listening to you and you are not going to feel like procrastinating things. If you would like to work with me to build you a strong foundation for discipline and help you eliminate procrastination from your life, then make sure that you click on the link in the description and book a one-on-one call with me. Alternatively, you could also DM me on Instagram. My ID is Jibreal Khan 97. It's also mentioned in the description below.